Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ariel. I am going live really quickly to here on YouTube to just express some things that are related to the DEI backlash that we've been seeing in the news pretty frequently. I have been on a mini sabbatical for the past couple of months and much needed, getting some much needed rest and reset, spending time with family and thinking about the future. There's a lot on our hearts right now and a lot on our plates right now as well. And so, as a DEI practitioner, I have not intended to publicly express or explain any of my personal or even professional thoughts around the DEI backlash. It has taken on a life of its own and one that, from a professional perspective, with my business advisory 83, we had seen this come in about 3 years ago. And so the work that we do with companies in the area of strategy continues. The work that we do in the area of training, education, leadership development continues. The work that we do with companies and with individuals, even specifically in the area of executive coaching, with high profile public figures, first generation millionaires of color, and BIPOC executives, that work continues. Personally, the work that I do in the ministry space with devotionals and podcasts and all that good stuff, that work continues. But you may go back, and I'm going to tag the video. I believe it was 2023. I did a video with my prediction around what would happen with DEI if I thought it was going away. And my answer was no. And so I want to revisit that video really quickly and give an update to that and give some predictions of what I think will happen with DEI. And it may shock you what I'm about to say, or maybe not. I hope you agree with me. And if you don't, that's fine too. I hope we can learn to have civil discourse around things, whether we disagree or not, and take perspectives that really help us challenge, but also grow the way we think and the way we apply them to life and business. So here are my thoughts. Again, this wasn't really my intention, but it was on my heart. And I am working on an article right now, or not necessarily an article. My company is working on a white paper to share this with our clients and folks we are in community with on the business side, of course. And if you want that article, if you want that, not article, if you want that case study, you want that white paper, we have case study in the white paper. If you want that white paper, feel free to go to advisory83.com, go to the contact section, let us know you want the white paper. You can also go to my website, arielellis.com, and request a white paper. You can email me at hello@arielellis.com if you want to talk through some of the points that I'll share with you in the video, as well as you can book a call on my website, arielellis.com. So let's talk about what's really happening with DEI right now. Again, I have been on a full, I would say mini, but also full sabbatical at the moment. Um, in a way where it was absolutely necessary. I am well. My health is phenomenal. My loved ones are in a great place. Like I am in no state of crisis. But the timing of it all was really, really critical for me to make a decision, particularly as I decided to exit the classroom for a little while and just take a break from being a professor and think about how we wanted to do business going forward and think about just my quality of life overall. So the conversation around DEI, although that is the primary business segment or sector of business that my company has been focused on, was something that I just did not want to publicly have a ton to talk about or a ton to weigh in on. However, the backlash, the consumer outrage, the corporate confusion is loud. But here's the truth. I stated in a video in 2023 that DEI wasn't going anywhere. And as of 2025, with everything that we've seen, I've continued to stand on that. And here's why. I believe it is about to be an even more demand. And I'm going to break this down really quickly. And again, I'll break it down in more detail with the white paper that my company or the report that my company is producing at this time and will be releasing. I think for the most part, of course, DEI initiatives could be and have been deprioritized and deemed less relevant. However, um, that does not mean that they're going to completely go away. What we're seeing with the executive orders really centers an idea of this work being undermined, and what it does is it ignores these completely inequitable systems that are in place for these programs to try to address. However, what I think is really important is that despite the noise, companies understand that there is long-term value in diversity, equity, inclusion, because and belonging. I'll add belonging to that because belonging needs to be a part of the conversation. Which the detractors they're missing. They're missing that piece as well. They're completely missing the belonging piece because it's not something that they care about or even want to pursue. Why? Is DE and I, diversity, equity, inclusion, and DEIB, DEI, adding the B, which is for belonging. Why does this have long-term value? We really shouldn't even have to explain this, but the value is there because inclusive workplaces drive innovation. They drive engagement. They drive, and of course, profitability, right? But real leaders know this isn't a trend. They know this is a necessity. So when we see the companies rolling back, we see them making these decisions, right? This is not going to have a huge impact on our future. It is having a huge impact on our present. But the reason, and I said this in 2023, the reason it will not have a huge impact on our future, particularly as it relates to the programming, is because point number one, and again, this will be in the paper, I'll break it down. I believe there will be an increased demand for this work, whether we call it DEI, DEIB, whether we give it a different, whatever we name it, there will be an increased demand for this work. Despite the current backlash, the work, the practice of DEI, I believe, will be in higher demand than ever before amongst organizations as they recognize this long-term value, particularly as it relates to fostering inclusive workplaces. When they think about ways to mitigate their reputational risks, and things of that nature, addressing any evolving consumer expectations. Number one, my reason for believing and perceiving that we need to identify what's next and knowing what's next is number one, increased demand for DEI. I believe there will be an increased demand, no matter what it's called. Number two, I believe that consumer power will intensify. I believe that people are more than ever, we've already seen the consumer response by way of um, boycotts and things of that nature. We've already kind of seen the ball rolling in that area. But I believe that people are going to be more intentional about where they place their coins, where they spend their money. Consumers are watching. Every single consumer in America is watching, whether they're withholding their money or not. Everyone is watching. And I believe that this consumer power, the power of the dollar, the power of the spend, right? Overall spending power will not only increase, but it will require brands to be accountable for the decisions that they're making. Now, this has already been a factor, but I believe this will increase and will intensify in this moment that we're in, and even after this moment is up, because this moment will end. Nothing lasts forever. If a company is inconsistent or performative with DEI, we're going to see more boycotts. We're going to see more social media backlash, and we're going to see a hit to their bottom line. Period. Period. That's it. More backlash on social media, more boycotts, and more hits to the bottom line. We've already seen um, shareholder or the stock in general from some companies declining. Okay. And in confidentiality, um, we have served To some degree, very maybe small degree, some of the companies who've rolled back. Um, and we've also worked with some executives on a one-on-one basis who were formerly attached to those organizations. And in that work, it is very clear that within the fabric of many organizations, DEI was at the surface, and that the work, though progressing, still needed to be tweaked and groomed and fine-tuned. But guess what? That's what everything, everything that you do in life and in business, it's never a perfect practice, right? Never a perfect practice. It always needs tweaking, it always needs retooling. It always needs reevaluating. So these things that I think we need to consider when it comes to identifying the idea that consumer power is going to intensify. People are going to say no, or they're going to say yes, one way or the other. And even if they're indifferent, they're still going to be making a decision with their indifference. The next thing, number three, I believe that corporate culture is going to go through an overhaul, which it's already going through now. And here's the shift: organizations will have to redefine their values. Period, point blank. They're going to have to figure out how to show up culturally and have some relevance within not only their internal teams, but in their within their external audiences as well. This isn't just about hiring numbers or making statements anymore. It never has been about that. Even when you go back to the root of the work in DEI or the practice of DEI, which starts in the civil rights movement and even a little bit prior to that, all of this is about credibility. So if you don't have a clear, authentic culture that reflects your workforce and your consumers, you're going to lose trust. Period, point blank. I also believe that when we think about the cultural corporate culture overhaul, we realize that there's positive impact that needs to be expressed in this work, and that means that you often have to put the facts forth. That means that any work of DEI needs to make sure it's being measurable. Companies have to show, as they're looking at retooling their values, as they're looking at locking in on who they say they are. It means that companies will have to show this measurable progress. What is the progress that you're making due to the existence of DEI programs and initiatives? So it's important to look at that and invite that into the conversation and take it seriously if you haven't already done so. Lastly, and number four, I think the next thing that's going to be important to consider is making sure that we acknowledge, and I kind of hinted to this in the beginning, making sure that we acknowledge that this this season of what we're experiencing, and I do call it a season, this period, that's a better word, this period of the DEI recoil, this period of the DEI recoil is a season. I'll flip it that way. We are experiencing temporary disruptions because of lasting impact that has been made and lasting impact that still needs to be made. Yes, you can refute that it is an imperfect practice. Yes, you can refute that the work of DEI only supports or has primarily supported white women, yes, there are numbers that show like that some of the work does not necessarily impact the people who need it the most. That's why we have an equity conversation. But the reality is, if we look at if we look at the totality of the work of DEI, and again, I am not necessarily defending the criticism. I'm not defending the criticism of DEI. I'm not even defending the practice of DEI, although I am a practitioner. I think it's very important for those of us who are practitioners and experts in this space to speak to where we are, right? Because again, every practice, no matter what it is imperfect. So my number four point that I want to make here again is thinking about the idea that accepting the idea rather that this is a temporary distraction. Temporary distraction. There has been lasting impact, and then there is still lasting impact to be made. This moment of recoil, from my view, is temporary. I said that in 2023, and things have intensified to 100-fold. And even with the intensification of what we've experienced, I still say that this disruption is temporary and that the impact will be lasting. The companies, I believe, that have stepped back from DEI, whether they've publicly announced it or not, I believe at some point will struggle to regain their relevance. But those who refine and adapt and embed the work, or no matter what you call it, the work of DEI into a longer term strategy and into the fabric inside of their organization and the culture of their organization and their communication strategies with with their external consumers, those are the organizations that will emerge stronger, more trusted, and will have more competitive advantage than they've ever had before. I also think that in this temporary disruption, it is important to make sure that organizations are developing their people, thinking about the future ahead, no matter what it could potentially look like and how difficult it may be to predict the future, right? You have to be Organizations need to be investing in their employees more and more, whether it be professional development, coaching, leadership development, whatever it is, instead of just recoiling or pulling back, rolling back, things of that nature. Even if organization has rolled back, even if they have recoiled, yes, fine. Do what you think you need to do under whatever circumstances you need to do them within. However, that development of employees is going to be consistently, we're going to see that across the board. So if your organization has rolled back their DEI, and they're not pouring into you as an employee, you should be asking some questions. If you are a leader inside of your organization, and you have the decision-making authority to invest in your people, and you know that DEI is on the chopping block, then you need to be thinking about how to show your people that you actually care, right? And that the work that you've done is not performative. And because again, that can easily be the assumption here, particularly for those who have stated or even let their employees know, hey, we're rolling this back, right? As you roll that back, what are you going to roll forward, right? As you roll that back, what are you going to roll out? Because employees and external consumers need to be able to trust you, whether you're B2B, B2C, whatever. They need to be able to trust you. Four things I always say, and I'll wrap up after this. Four things that are always critical in any cultural concept of an organization, particularly as it relates to DEI work, no matter what you do or how you call it and how you do it. Psychological safety, active listening, transparency, and the ability to be able to be in community. That's it, right? So think about that. I just want to be able to give you these leadership insights. We do have a full report that we're going to be issuing soon. If you want to get the report, please go to our website, advisory83.com. You can reach out to me directly at arielellis.com to book a call, or you can email me at hello@arielellis.com. Listen, everyone, there's a lot going on, a lot of shifting, a lot of uncertainty. So do not get distracted by the chaos. Keep your eyes on the bigger picture. Demographically, our world is very diverse, and that's not going to change. The future is still diverse. The future is still inclusive. The future still has so many beautiful opportunities to explore equity, and the future still has these amazing spaces that we can create to establish belonging and to cultivate and to create a perpetuity of belonging. This is ours to shape, regardless of what companies decide to do, what they're going to do or not. Also, keep this in mind. Organizations are made of people and people are human. So as you boycott, which you have every right to do, as you say you're not going to support, which you have every right to do, keep in mind too that there's an employee stuck somewhere who's disappointed that their company has made that decision. And as profits go, so do their jobs. And we've seen that even with the government, right? Not necessarily on the profit side, but we've seen that, right? So keep in mind that while companies, we see these big logos, we see these stores, we see names, realize that behind these names and behind these logos are individuals, human beings who are making decisions. And many of those individuals who work inside of those organizations who don't get to make decisions have to face the challenge of having an employer who's making a decision on their behalf. So keep that in mind as you make whatever decision you feel like is best for you to make as a consumer and as a leader inside of your organization. No matter what, I hope that you are on the right side of history at this stage. Feel free to subscribe to my channel for more insights. Again, feel free to go to our company website, Advisory 83, to request to be on our mailing list for the white paper, or you can reach out to me directly at arielellis.com, hello@arielellis.com to book a call. All right, thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.